Welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake. It is trade deadline day. It's election day. And JP and I are both uncoordinatedly wearing blue. So that's a fun, happy coincidence. Always good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, actually. This has been the busiest day of the year so far in terms of NFL and in life. The college football playoff first rankings will be released tonight. So it just feels like everything is happening on one day, which is great for most people, but terrible for people working in sports.
That is correct. Yeah, no, it's been a busy day getting around, figuring out, voting ballots and stuff of that nature, and then getting home to do all the football work, the trade deadline, all of that. But yeah, if you're watching the video, you're listening to this as a podcast, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff and podcast stuff. Subscribe to the channel, leave a review, leave a comment, all of that. So we're gonna start off with the trade deadline. Before we get into the midseason awards, because a lot of big moves being made today. My favorite of which is the Washington Commanders acquiring Marshon Lattimore at cornerback. This is a move that I've talked about a little bit on different shows for the last week and a half, 2 weeks about a potential move being made. So I'm happy to see it come to fruition. I think that Washington has done a complete 180 over the past couple years since Dan Snyder was finally relinquished and banished from the NFL, if you will. And it's good to see Adam Peters and co are really just going all in and building or trying to build just this perfect monster around Jaden Daniels while he's on rookie contract. Getting Marshon Lattimore certainly helps that defense.
That's exactly what you have to do when you know you have a quarterback that is good, especially in the NFC where, the Commanders are still leading the NFC East, but outside of that, the wild card teams aren't exactly super impressive. This is still a team that can make the playoffs in year one of this thing. So when the window is open, you do everything you can to make sure that window stays open for as long as possible, especially while the quarterback is cheap. So going out and adding Marshon Lattimore, who hasn't been the best this year, largely due to injuries and just the overall saintsiness of it all. But at his best, he can play man corner. It's obviously coming from New Orleans, played a lot of cover two, a lot of quarters. And I think that fits really well with what Dan Quinn wants to do with this Commanders team. They play a lot of Tampa too. And they have a lot of guys who just want to sit in those underneath areas. And now you have a legitimate CB1 if you want to play man coverage. So this is a really good trade for the Commanders and one that shows what they think of their team and what else they think of the NFC.
I think it also gives them the ability to move around different guys. Like Mike Sainristil has been really good as a rookie. Emmanuel Forbes has taken strides forward. And for a guy like that, who is very instinctual, if they wanted to move him into even more of an inside role while Lattimore patrols the outs, I think that they've unlocked a lot of different things that they can do with their secondary. Obviously, Jeremy Chin, the free agent signing, has been very good for them as well. This Commanders team is extremely, extremely fun. And defensively, they just got a lot better. So good for them, man. That's a fun team that I'm, obviously being a Steelers fan, want them to be successful. But if I'm looking at other teams around the league, that I'm just good for them. It's the Washington Commanders right now. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I still have a little bit of concerns about the sustainability of it all. But right now, you're 7-2 and you're leading the NFC East. You're not worried about sustainability right now. You just want to make sure you keep winning games, and they're managing to do that behind a quarterback who has shown that he is very good.
They are indeed doing that. Speaking of my Steelers, they trade for George Pickens light and get Mike Williams. So it's a move that I think was kind of expected. Once murmurs about Mike Williams started going around the league, everybody's like, okay, yeah, he'll be a Steeler sooner than later. And lo and behold, 2 weeks after they play Pittsburgh, he is in a Steelers uniform in exchange for a 5th round pick. The Steelers more or less kind of put themselves in this situation. They didn't end up getting Brandon Ayuk or Devontae Adams. There was a 2-day long thing where it was maybe Cooper Kupp, and then the Rams won on Thursday night, and that kind of went away as well. So they kind of had to, even a 5th round pick is still kind of overpaying a little bit when you look at what other receivers have gone for this offseason and even at the deadline. I don't think that him and DeAndre Hopkins are worth the same amount. So, they kind of had to swallow a little bit of pride there. But regardless, they get better at receiver, and now we're going to see I think similar to what the Titans did in 2019 and 20, and that's what the Steelers are doing right now is run the ball, moon balls, and now they have two guys on the outside that are really capable of going up and getting those.
That's exactly what I think this is. I think this is a play for Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense to have another body on the outside who can go up and get the ball in those deep passing situations that we saw a lot from Russell Wilson in his first two starts. I think that they still need an actual kind of underneath receiver who can create separation. As cool as Calvin Austin is, I don't think he's that guy. I think Van Jefferson is not best suited for that role. You were hoping to see Roman Wilson, but I don't know if that's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
But I still think they need that guy. But as long as this offense can remain efficient running the ball, they've been incredibly efficient in the run game since Russell Wilson took over. Of course, you played the Giants and the Jets, which take with that what you will in terms of run defense. But if you can remain efficient running the ball and only let Russell Wilson throw off of those deep play action passing situations where he's just chucking it downfield, I think that's a really good idea. I'm not too worried about the compensation, largely just because this is a 1-year rental for a player who, I mean, he might not be on the team next year. So if you're losing the 5th round pick for that, that's probably fine.
Yeah, and even if they do bring him back, I think it'll be on like a 1 year, $3 million deal, something of that nature, where he's not making a ton of money anyway. So yeah, that's my immediate thoughts too. Is it makes them better right now? He fits what they do offensively, which is all right, Russ. Give him a chance 1-on-1. And now, if you're a defense, you have to at least respect the fact that they have both George Pickens and Mike Williams on the outside. So you can't necessarily shade all your attention to Pickens. You got to respect at least what Mike Williams can do. So I think it opens up a lot of things for the Steelers. What are the Cowboys doing, by the way? Jonathan Mingo for a 4th round pick. Sure, what the hell? We've talked plenty about the Cowboys this year, and I had said a few times on this show to our good friend Mike Tanier, I was like, I'm waiting for the Cowboys to do something hilarious at the trade deadline. I said Miles Sanders for a 4th round pick. That was my big guess. It ends up being Jonathan Mingo, which I think is kind of equally as funny for that compensation. I just think that they're just kind of losing it right now. And Dak's looks like he's going on IR, so he's gonna miss at least 4 games. Everything's just kind of falling in on them right now.
So before the trade went down, Jerry Jones went on the radio and was like, we're looking to trade for a guy. We had our eye on him in the NFL draft process, and now I think we're able to make it happen. Initially, I thought the funnier thing would be they're trying to trade for a guy like Teteroa McMillan, who is in fact not in the NFL right now and is actually still playing in college for the Arizona Wildcats. But this is 100% funnier, actually. I think Jonathan Mingo, if you're looking for a bright side for Cowboys fans, you get 2 years of Jonathan Mingo. He's still relatively young. You can say, hey, maybe the Panthers didn't use him right. However, he was getting outsnapped by Jalen Coker, who is actually very good, but it's still an undrafted rookie. He was getting outsnapped by him. He was getting outsnapped by Leggett. He constantly fell down the depth chart and also wasn't that great to begin with. So I wonder what the plan is, especially trading a 2025 4th rounder for Mingo, especially when, like we just talked about, DeAndre Hopkins for a 5th that could turn to a 4th if they make the Super Bowl, which is looking more and more likely. So it just feels like weird process. I get why. That's been the biggest thing with the Cowboys. I get why they do these things, but the process of how we got there is incredibly weird.
All right. I think those are the biggest moves from the trade deadline. Don't think we missed on any. Obviously, at the time of recording, we have
Big Z, Zadarius Smith to the Lions.
Oh no, we didn't. Yeah, let's talk about Zadarius Smith to the Lions. Yeah, good for the Lions. It was kind of expected that they were going to add some form of pass rush. Azeez Ojulari's a name that's kind of been on the monitor, but Zadarius Smith, especially after the Browns fall to 2-7 on the year, it made sense for them to try to get something for him, and it makes sense for Zadarius Smith to make his 3rd stop in the NFC North now.
I just hope he rounds it out by playing for the Bears eventually. Yeah. But this feels like a Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes style edge finally getting to the Detroit Lions. Matches all the physical tools they want, big, long, strong. And I think he works really well on those simulated pressures that Aaron Glenn has been working into the defense now they don't have Aiden Hutchinson. I think having a legitimate number one, not legit number one, but a legit guy as a pass rusher on the outside will help open up guys like Lee McNeil on the inside and allows you to play more games. And they just needed to bump everybody who was on the depth chart right now that's healthy as they move to bump them down a spot. So I think this is a really good idea. I like the trade for both sides, and Zadarius Smith fits what the Lions want to be at the edge.
Yeah, and to me right now, they're the best team in football. And if you can get a legit guy off the edge right now, which is, the biggest hole that they have after the Aiden Hutchinson injury, makes a lot of sense to do. And yeah, man, they look very good. I think the biggest question was, going into last week, obviously playing in Lambeau was their first game outdoors this year, which is crazy. And in the conditions, in the elements, they were still ass kicking for 3 hours. So they look like the most dangerous team in the NFL right now. And adding Zadarius Smith to the defense, good move all around. So let's get into our mid-season awards. I feel like I need one of those like party things that you blow and it makes the sound, maybe some party hats and whatnot. You and I have been doing this together for a while, and I always love doing our little, whether it's a draft or like respective lists where we can kind of go back and forth. So your mid-season MVP. I know who it's going to be. You know who mine's going to be. Let's just get it out of the way right now. Go ahead and tell me why Lamar Jackson's the MVP.
That's right. There hasn't been a back-to-back MVP since Aaron Rodgers in 2020 and 2021. And I think Lamar Jackson is on pace to change that. He has been even better than he was last year. And I think the biggest thing about watching the Ravens offense is how similar it is to offenses like Detroit and San Francisco and what they want to be and how they get to it, except they have the most dynamic ball carrier in the league at quarterback as well. And you just look at, I talked about last year when he won MVP, but even more this year, the force that the gravity that he carries as a runner and as a thrower. He is so good at just these small movements. It's the subtle pocket passing stuff where against the Broncos, it wasn't just like all the crazy out of the pocket stuff that we normally associate with like the elite quarterbacks. It was 3-step drop, whoop, somebody just step up in the pocket, throw it over the middle to Zay Flowers, and it's a touchdown. They have been killing it on over the middle passes. I think Derrick Henry has been a great addition. I honestly think the reason that Lamar might not win MVP is because Derrick Henry's going to steal MVP votes from him, which I would be more than happy about. But right now, Lamar is just, it's hard saying he isn't playing the best football out of any quarterback in the NFL right now. And it's the reason why he should win MVP.
He would be my number 2 right now. And you know who I'm going to put number 1 the same way I knew who you were going to put number 1. Josh Allen is mine at the moment right now. For a lot of the reasons that you just pointed out, where Josh Allen doesn't have a Derrick Henry behind him. And I've been very much on record where I thought that Josh should have won it last year for similar reasons, where he was going up against the grain of the fact that he didn't have a ton around him and he was having to do a lot of stuff himself. And the biggest knock on Josh has been, he's such a turnover machine. He forces things that aren't there. This season, we've seen him completely flip the script where he has controlled himself a lot more, where and I think a lot of that needs to be credited to Joe Brady as well, because they've become a more efficient offense rather than living off the big play. The Dolphins game was a perfect example of that. They dared Josh to just play the check down game, and he did. And, it resulted in a 63-yard reception for Ray Davis that led to a touchdown, but it hasn't taken away from him still being Josh Allen. We've seen, the play where he threw it to Quentin Morris from the 3-yard line, where he's just falling down, being pulled down, and still completes a touchdown pass. Like, he's still Josh Allen, but a more buttoned up version where he's not going to be, it's not hangover Josh Allen where he's, just playing loose and that's all that he's doing. So right now he's second in the NFL in EPA. He's on pace for 40 total touchdowns for the 5th consecutive year to extend his own NFL record. Right now, I think that he and Lamar, I wouldn't push back too much on people saying Lamar just because he's also been incredibly fantastic. But I do think that the Derrick Henry factor is something that does need taken into consideration, which is why I would give the edge to Josh here. And it's just the fact that there were so many people coming into this year saying, Bills are done. They don't have anybody to turn to. And he's made chicken salad out of, Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel. Obviously, Khalil Shakir has been great. He already has a career high in receptions this year through 9 games. He's done a lot to elevate those people around him. So I think that's why I would give it to Josh Allen over Lamar.
Yeah, and I think Josh Allen right now would be my second choice. I think that what Josh has done, like you said, in his growth and maturation as a player has been evident throughout this entire season, not only in the short area passing, it's the getting everybody set and getting everybody together. He's changing plays at the line of scrimmage. It feels like he has mastered the quarterback position at this point in his career and is still able to do the wacky, crazy stuff that we normally associate with Josh Allen. I think the small lull in play when it came to like around the I think it was around the Ravens Texans back-to-back where I think it was that game, the Texans game where he went like 11 of 30 or something.
9 of 30 that game, yeah.
Yeah, it was 9 of 30, and I think that is probably going to be held against him, but I really just think it's going to come down to Lamar and Josh Allen, and I think the Ravens scoring 40 points more times this season than they have scored under 25, which is just an insane stat. And then I think Lamar is on pace for 4,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing, which he would be the only player in league history to do that.
Right.
If he gets those, then yeah, I don't think anybody's catching him for MVP.
I would agree with that for sure. Let's go to offensive player of the year. Where would you go in terms of that?
So initially, I was going to say Derrick Henry, but as much as I would love for it to be that, I think the last time teammates on the same side of the ball won MVP and Offensive Player of the Year was like 2003. I think that's what I saw.
Who would that have been? Would that have been the Peyton and Steve McNair year when they shared the MVP?
Yeah, that was the Peyton Steve McNair year where they shared MVP.
And I assume Marvin Harrison would have gotten Offensive Player of the Year, maybe.
No, I'm actually going back. I'm going back to check it right now just to make sure. Right, but it was 2003. It was co-MVP was McNair and Offensive Player of the Year was Jamal Lewis.
Okay.
And then in 94, Steve Young and Jerry Rice were MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. So there's precedent, but it hasn't happened in a long time. So I'm going to go with another running back. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley for Offensive Player of the Year. And I just need people to understand not only how good Saquon is, but how important he is to the Eagles offense this year. With Saquon Barkley on the field, their total EPA per play is 0.12, which is really good.
Very good.
When you look at offensive teams right now when it comes to EPA per play, 0.12 with Saquon on the field will put them fourth, tied with the Detroit Lions. Without Saquon on the field, it is negative 0.09, which would put them with the New York Giants.
I love it.
And I think that is just the funniest thing. Saquon's ability to remain explosive and keep the explosiveness in that offense while also being able to keep them on schedule when it comes to, Jalen Hurts hasn't been the best this year. They've missed A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith has been out of games. Saquon has been the one constant in that offense, and he is still capable of making all the highlight plays. He jumped over somebody backwards on Sunday. That is the most absurd thing I've seen in a football game. I couldn't even be mad because it was the Jaguars that it happened to. I was like, dang, that's just a great play. Like, I can't even do anything about that. But Saquon, to this point, if it wasn't for Derrick Henry, would be one of the most impressive running backs, would be the most impressive running back this season. So I would give him Offensive Player of the Year just for how much he means to an Eagles offense that's still trying to figure itself out.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with Saquon being your pick. I will probably go with Derrick Henry, though, just because of the added element that he has given Baltimore this year. Also, I want to say this, because everybody on Twitter is like, oh, how could the Titans let him go? Or how could the Giants let Saquon Barkley go? Fair enough. But at the same time, we also got to remember that these are teams that stink, and paying a lot of money to a running back just didn't feel like the right move. So let's kind of calm down on that a little bit.
To be fair,
go ahead.
I would much rather pay Saquon Barkley than pay Daniel Jones.
100% agree with you on that. Yes.
One pushback I would give. Choosing to pay Daniel Jones over Saquon probably was not the best decision by anybody involved. But we can't even hold like the Giants too much accountable for that, because I think that was a different. No, that wasn't a different.
It was Joe Shen.
It was Joe Shine. Yeah, paying that guy over the guy who jumped over somebody backwards probably wasn't a smart decision.
Which I 100% agree with. Yeah. But regardless, I think that looking at what Henry has done to the offense right now, and you look at just the other names that have had this level of production at this age, I think it's like Jim Brown, Adrian Peterson, Curtis Martin that are like the only guys that you can kind of lump into the type of season that he's having right now. Yeah, man, it's tremendous. And especially when you go into the game and if like you're the other team, like they're going to give the rock to 22. We just can't figure out how to stop him because he's still Derrick Henry and he's still playing at that elite level. I still believe he's on pace for another 2,000-yard season. He would be the first running back in history to have 2 of them. So if he does get there, I don't think that there's anybody that can overtake him for Offensive Player of the Year if he has that feat to his name.
Yeah, I think if Derrick Henry was my second choice, obviously, and it's just his ability to be explosive in the run game. I thought Derrick Henry would be available just to get the 4 and 5 yard plays to keep them on schedule, and Lamar would provide the explosiveness in the run game. It's actually been the other way around. Lamar has been doing the 4 and 5 yard gains, and 250-pound Derrick Henry has the most runs of over 20 yards this season out of any player in the league, which again, he is, and I don't want to sound too hyperbolic when I say this, he is the last of a dying era of running backs. The bell cow, the 250-pound guy, you just give the ball to 25 times a game and he will carry you to a win. But not only that, it's just how unique he is as a runner. He's a 250-pound scat back. Like, he can take off on folks and he will. I just think about the run against the Buccaneers and the first play against the Bills where he takes it 81 yards. Untouched. And it's just like, what do you do with that guy? Because you try and get in front of him, he will put you into the dirt.
Well, I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't line up in a nickel defense like the Buffalo Bills did and say, all right, yep, bring it on. Well, they brought it.
Personnel, live and die. Live and die, baby.
So, yeah, I think that he is I'm trying to think of like the perfect analogy. It's an analogy I've made for the Detroit Lions offense. He is a just perfect modern throwback where he's like a really good remake of a classic movie where he is Earl Campbell. He is Eric Dickerson. He is thrown into this league, but he would also thrive in any other era because he's just that good. So doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon either. And he's having a phenomenal year. Your defensive player of the year.
Interrupt you real quick, but according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, the Packers are trading Preston Smith to the Steelers.
Yes, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. Okay, so
how about that? We got breaking news on the pod.
How about that? Okay. I did not expect the Steelers to trade for another edge rusher. They have 3 pretty good ones. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm very pleased with this. You got TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Preston Smith, and Alex Highsmith. I'm confused, but I'm happy. I'm excited to see where this goes.
I want to see what the value is and what they gave up.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, if you have a quarterback and you have a pass rush, you can go pretty far. And the Steelers are building the pass rush. I know Highsmith has been in and out due to injury. Herbig has been in and out due to injury. So it feels like Preston Smith is going to be more depth. Where you can have him rotate in. You can have him be kind of Darius Smith-ish. But it also feels from the Packers' perspective like they were getting a lot younger at edge, with Enagbari, Lucas Van Ness, and then Rashawn Gary obviously is taking up one of those spots. So it feels like a move to get some depth out of the way for the young guys to play for Green Bay, and then adding depth for the Steelers, who you just add more pass rushers. That's all you really want to do is add some pass rush.
So, yeah, I'm never going to be against adding, like the same way you can never have enough playmakers offensively, you can never have enough dudes that can get to the quarterback defensively, especially in today's NFL. So I'm on board with it, man. Give me all the good players. We'll have to see what the compensation ends up being. I can't imagine it's going to be anything crazy. If I had to guess, one of the 7s that they had from the Kenny Pickett trade will probably be on it because they got a pair of those. I want to say it was 1 in last year's draft and 1 in this year's draft. So my guess is there is going to be some form of day 3. But regardless, yeah, good for the Steelers. I'll take it. I will take it. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess okay, this is fun.
Yeah, that's
like it might work, but if it doesn't, you still have 3 other good pass rushers. Like it's fine.
I feel like with the emergence of Nick Herbig, this I don't know how many years Preston Smith has on his contract. Is he a pending free agent?
Who? Preston Smith?
Yes.
Let me see.
Because if he's a pending free agent, then again, it could just be another half-year rental to try to make a push in the playoffs. That's fine. But if he's under contract for a few years, I could see a situation where they look at Nick Herbig as just being that good to make the number 2, and maybe they move off Alex Highsmith to try to get somebody in the offseason.
So I think there might be a void year after this year. But, okay, so it looks like there is no void year after 2024, but the roster bonuses go away. According to Over the Cap, the void year comes in 2027.
Okay, so keep an eye out for that, folks. If the Steelers wanted to make some other move in the offseason, because Nick Herbig's that dude coming off the edge. And I understand that Alex Highsmith is a good run stopper, but TJ Watt's also a good run stopper. So I think that those two things kind of cancel each other out. They could make a move. We'll see. But we'll worry about that in a future time. All right. So yeah, nice little breaking news break on the pod. How about that? So let's get back to the awards. Yeah. I feel like I know who your defensive player of the year is going to be, because I know the type of football players that you like. And I know that this one in particular really tickles your fancy. So if I had to guess, is it going to be Dexter Lawrence?
Sexy Dexy, baby.
There we go. Yep.
That is the defensive player of the year. I just need people to understand how incredible Dexter Lawrence is playing in 2024 as a nose tackle.
Yeah.
So this season, he leads all defensive tackles in sacks. He has 9 sacks. He's 4th in total pressures, according to Sports Information Solutions. That's 1st in sacks among all defensive tackles, 4th in pressures among all defensive tackles. Among all players, like among all pass rushers in the entire league, he is still near the top in pressure rate, sacks, total pressures. And he's doing this as a nose tackle on a team that doesn't really have too much outside presence outside of Brian Burns. Thibodeau's been hurt. Ojulari might be on the move today. Dexter Lawrence is a force multiplier. Like you never see a nose tackle who is as good as he is against the run while also being the straw that stirs the drink for them as a pass rusher, as a pass rush unit. He is an anomaly as a player. You don't see guys like Dexter Lawrence come around very often. I mean, he's like a 350-pound nose tackle who moves like somebody who is 100 pounds lighter. I think he is my defensive player of the year so far, and it's close, but man, he's just an incredible player.
I feel like he's like the NXT Keith Lee of defensive players right now. He's incredible to watch.
I want to make sure to get it correct. Dexter Lawrence is 2nd in the entire NFL in sacks right now, behind Trey Hendrickson, who plays on the edge and not nose tackle.
I do love me some Dexter Lawrence. And I wouldn't be angry whatsoever if he got the award. But I'm going to have a homer pick here, and I'm going to say it's Trent Jordan Watt. Now, the sack production hasn't been to the level of what we've grown accustomed to. He's still on pace for, I think, 15 sacks, but still a little bit less than, I think that would be his fewest total since 2018. But you look at what he's done in the run game. He leads the NFL in forced fumbles. He's getting chipped a ton, but still being able to make plays. And he's done so without anybody opposite of him, because Alex Highsmith has been hurt this year. Nick Herbig's missed some time this year with injuries. They've had to bring in guys like Jeremiah Moon to play opposite of him. And teams have been really able to focus on just taking away 90 and not having to worry about the other side in several games. But he's still on top of that. In week 1, he should have had 2 additional sacks that were taken away due to penalty, an additional forced fumble that was taken away due to penalty, like things that were kind of out of his control that took away from his production. So he's playing better than what the box score shows. And we talked about Dexter Lawrence playing at a high level. TJ Watt has played at this level for a long time and still doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He is the engine that makes that defense go. And I think with Pittsburgh being in a situation where they're 6-2, potentially being at 7-2, they're currently number 1 in the AFC North. If they get a home playoff game and Watt continues this level of production, I think it would be hard to give it to anybody. I understand that defensive player in the year isn't quite like MVP where it's going to go to, the more winning teams. So I could see Deshaun Lawrence still getting it, even if the Giants continue to not be great overall. But if TJ Watt continues being the dominant force that he is and the Steelers get, an 11-6, 12-5 type season, I think that he'll probably be in the driver's seat for it.
So I like the TJ Watt pick. I'm always going to like TJ Watt pick, a phenomenal player and a true impact player who always can be counted on. Like you can predict, like, oh, here comes the TJ Watt strip sack, and then it happens. I think the one thing that might knock TJ Watt, and you can parse through these stats however you want, among ESPN's top 10 in pass rush win rate for edges, TJ Watt has the lowest double team rate. And I'm not sure, like, again, you can parse through those stats if you want, but I think that number and the lower sack numbers might be held against him. But again, it's hard to find a guy that's as impactful on a down-to-down basis as TJ Watt on a defense that's still very good. I'm not sure if it's the best defense in the league right now, but it's still a very, very good defense. And again, the impact that he has up front is going to get a lot of votes for him. I also, I don't think they're going to be good enough to actually get votes, but Trey Hendrickson is definitely up there in terms of defensive player of the year. Just an absurd player. And
He's
of course,
an incredible player.
I'm being a homer here. Hoot hoot, go Owls. But he is the only reason why that defense works at all. It is Trey Hendrickson or bust. I really do like the TJ Watt pick though.
I love it. All right. Who is your comeback player of the year?
Ooh, so this is an interesting one. It's an interesting one because there's a lot of guys you can kind of say, like, what did they come back from?
Right. Like they gave it to Joe Flacco because he came back from playing for the Jets. That was his big comeback.
Yeah, that's the kind of comeback we're getting at right now. Man. I'm going to give it to the quarterback of one of my favorite offenses to watch in the NFL right now, Kirk Cousins.
Good shout.
Comeback player of the year. That offense is so freaking fun. And I think Zach Robinson has done such a good job of blending the outside zone run schemes with a quarterback who we saw in week 1 and he looked limited in his movement, but what he's done as a drop back passer, I have gained so much more respect for Kirk Cousins over the last couple of years. He's tough as hell in the pocket. He's doing a lot of advanced QBing back there. That's kind of like, oh, like you're seeing a lot of the Matthew Stafford offense that Robinson was there for when the Rams won the Super Bowl and when the Rams have been really good with Matthew Stafford. And you're seeing that now with Kirk Cousins throwing to, Darnell Mooney is probably going to make a Pro Bowl with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. And I think his impact and getting the Falcons, not only getting the Falcons to the playoffs, but the Falcons winning the division is totally in play right now. And him coming back from that Achilles injury is definitely going to get my vote for him.
I like the Kirk Cousins pick. I'm going to stick in the AFC North. I'm going to give mine to Joe Burrow. I think that despite his team being bad, he is playing maybe the best football of his career right now. He is second in the NFL in QBR, first in total EPA. He's thrown 20 touchdowns to just 4 picks, and his passer rating is 108. Like, there's nothing more that he can do to elevate this team. And he's doing it with a defense that's playing horrible. He's doing it with Jermaine Burton, who becomes a healthy scratch because of his behavior in-house, and he's having to deal with all that, basically babysitting guys. T. Higgins has been injured a lot of this season, so it's been a lot of Jamar Chase or bust. But regardless, his production has still been out of this world. Let's see how many 300-yard games he has. He's got 1, 2. I should have done 250 yards or more. He's only got 2. That was a bad example. Regardless, I think that his ability to still get production out of this offense, and doing so coming off, obviously the wrist injury, and there's been times this year where it still doesn't look like it's completely healed. He himself has fully acknowledged, like, yeah, it's still a little bit of pain sometimes. But what is it? 5-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Like I said, second in the NFL in QBR, first in total EPA. I still think the Bengals are going to be a playoff team in an AFC that's seeing a lot of teams kind of eat each other. And you look at their schedule, I think that they can still pull it off as like a 9 or 10 win team. They're going to have to get a little bit of help with tiebreakers in there. But if they can win 10 games, I think they get in. And if they do that, then I think that Burrow could be one of those names that we're looking at as the comeback player of the year, especially just because he's doing it basically by himself.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow has been incredible this season. I think I'm not with you as much as the Bengals making the playoffs, even though the AFC is kind of depleted. I still want to see them play a competent game defensively, but he has been incredible. He has played with so much more aggression than he did at the beginning of the season. And you can tell that he's fully healthy. And I think that matters a lot for this offense as they still try to figure out what they want to be on the ground, if T and Jamar are even going to play week in, week out. He's throwing to Andre Yoshivas, Jermaine Burton, Mike Gesicki. Like, he's throwing to those caliber of players.
Right.
And then the trouble on the offensive line hasn't really helped, but he's still played really well. I definitely think Joe Burrow is going to get a lot of votes. I think Justin Herbert is going to get a lot of votes, especially because, man, getting this Chargers team to the playoffs in spite of everything that the Chargers are would be a miracle. So I think those three guys definitely be at the top of the list for me.
By the way, I was correct. The Steelers did send a 7th to Green Bay for Preston Smith. So A-okay with that. A-okay with that. All right. Who is your coach of the year?
So I know a lot of people are going to say Dan Quinn. I know a lot of people are going to say Dan Campbell. And I think that those two guys are probably going to be first and second, regardless of who you're going to put there.
Yeah.
I am going to make a case for Jim Harbaugh. And the reason I'm making the case for Jim Harbaugh is because nobody thought the Chargers were going to make the playoffs this year. Like, this was supposed to be like we're taking it down to the studs. We got Justin Herbert. We're going to figure everything else as we go. Not only are the Chargers in the playoff hunt right now, but they're actually good. And I think defensively, they have been phenomenal this year. They're second in EPA per play. Jesse Minter has been a phenomenal hire. He has them at third in success rate allowed. They are second in EPA per rush. And then just the ability to get the most out of Justin Herbert, who has played incredible football. I think the stats aren't showing it, but Justin Herbert's been incredible. I think that if they're able to make the playoffs, and I think that's a big if, because if you look at the Chargers schedule, they have the Titans, Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos, Patriots, Raiders. So it's going to be a tough stretch if they can make the playoffs. But if they do, I think Jim Harbaugh should definitely get votes. And while I do think Dan Quinn, if they keep up this pace, is going to win Coach of the Year, I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Harbaugh got votes.
So I know when it comes to head coaches, I give this guy a lot of flack sometimes. But I also have to give credit when it's due. And this year it's been incredibly due. So my coach of the year is Michael Pettaway Tomlin.
That's right. That's right.
When coming into the year, I was very like, okay, they're going to be like probably better than they were last year just by default because they don't have Kenny Pickett. They don't have Matt Canada. Their quarterback play, again, it's just a lot of by default, they'll probably be at least a game better. I had a baseline of like, okay, if they go 10-7, 11-6, great job, Mike. And they're on pace to win 12 games right now. They're first in the AFC North, and they are doing it with quarterbacks nobody wanted, an offensive coordinator that was fired from a head coaching job in Atlanta, and they're doing it with a completely new offensive staff where offensive coordinators new, quarterback coaches new, wide receiver coaches new. And outside of George Pickens, man, before the Mike Williams trade, we haven't seen Mike Williams play a game in Pittsburgh yet. They're doing it with Van Jefferson. They're doing it with Calvin Austin, Calvin Austin's come along and is a very fun player and has found a really good utility role in the Steelers offense and special teams. Offensive line-wise, lost Troy Fautanu for the year, lost James Daniels for the year. Isaac Samala missed the first 3 games of the year. They're doing it. Zach Frazier, the rookie, started at center. He's been great. Left tackle Dan Moore's played a lot better. They've won games with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, 2 completely different styles of quarterback and different styles of play that they've won their games. And as much as being a Steelers fan the past few years has been incredibly frustrating because, like, yeah, they'll go 10-7, but they're going to do it in the most miserable way possible. And you know that ceiling is very low. This year, it feels like the ceiling is higher. I think that they can win a playoff game and maybe surprise some people. I think that they can be that 2019 Titans team that surprises people and gets to the AFC title game. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Tomlin has coached his ass off this year. And I got to give immense credit to him for the job that he's done. So Mike Tomlin, head coach of the year for me.
The thing about Mike Tomlin that always impresses me is he's able to keep the locker room from splitting at the seams most times. I mean, we think back to the Killer Bees era of the Steelers. You know, he's able to keep that locker room afloat. And if you look at all the guys that are in that locker room and what they're doing now, he deserves a Nobel Prize, not just head coach of the year, but his ability to always make the tougher decisions. I think about benching Justin Fields for Russell Wilson and seeing what you have, and
which by the way, I crucified him for, and he's looked like a genius for doing it. I will happily admit that I was very wrong on it.
It works. The hires that he made with Arthur Smith, navigating the offensive line turmoil, getting this defense to still maintain the standard despite bringing in a lot of new faces, young guys, getting Dante Jackson acclimated. This has been one of Mike Tomlin's best coaching jobs, not from the difficulty of having the players. Like, I think the overall team quality in terms of players on the roster is better than last year, but the speed at which they had to pick it up and they had to get it going, I think that definitely is going to get him a lot of votes.
I think that, you know, especially now where it's like are all the awards the same like as MVP now, where it's like a 1 through 5 type thing or 1 through 10, whatever it is now, where
I think it's a 1 through 10. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think he'll definitely get votes. I do think that you're right though. I think that Dan Quinn will probably be, especially if the Commanders keep this up, probably the runaway winner. But I do have to acknowledge, again, as a Steelers fan, I've been very critical of Mike Tomlin. So I do want to put forth the credit when it's due to him, because, you know, as much as 2019 was incredible, getting a Ben Roethlisberger-less team with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges to 8 wins and on the brink of a playoff spot was great. The fact that he didn't have a sub 500 record with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky ever, like, all those are incredible feats. I would argue, though, the fact that they are in position to win, like legitimately, like win a playoff game this year with everything that's gone on over the last calendar year, it's right up there with some of his best coaching jobs. So that is my coach of the year. What is your midseason Super Bowl pick?
Oh, are we talking about just participants or who is going to
participants? Win? Participants, yes.
I don't want to do this because I don't think they're the best team in the division right now.
That's okay. We can get nuts with this.
It's going to be Chiefs Lions. As much as I think people have got to get the Legion of Zoom era of Chiefs offense out of their head. This is not what the Chiefs offense is going to be. This Chiefs offense resembles a lot the Patriots with Tom Brady, where, again, they just find ways to win using different people. Their run game has gotten really, really good. I think people are going to look at like yards per carry and are going to be like, well, they're not running the ball super well. But if you look at their EPA per carry, they are top 10 in the league. They're 8th right now in EPA per carry. And they're behind Tampa, Jacksonville, and then a whole bunch of teams with runners at quarterback and the Lions. So their ability just to get fantastic play from a whole bunch of role players. DeAndre Hopkins has just been a revelation for them. They actually have a true X receiver now that can kind of do the stuff that they haven't really had since Tyreek Hill left. And then the defense, once again, is just amazing. As much as I think this Chiefs team might not have it, I said that last year too. And we saw what happened. And I think the Lions are going to run straight through the NFC.
Yeah.
I can't see any team right now stopping them.
Chiefs Lions is also my pick for the reasons that you just pointed out. Our mutual friend Greg Rosenthal tweeted it last night. I thought it was a really good tweet. He said the Chiefs are doing the Patriots dynasty in reverse, and right now they're at the 2003 Patriots, where it's just the most boring form of winning. They're not doing anything crazy. It's pre-Randy Moss, pre-Wes Welker. Brady isn't exactly like 2007 Brady, where it's 50 touchdowns. It's still like early stages Brady, but it's just efficient. And the defense is awesome. So I thought that was a fun little tweet. And yeah, here's a bold prediction for you. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, Travis Kelce retires.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the path that we're going down right now.
I absolutely think that's going to happen. I'm trying to find it right now, but Patrick Mahomes, I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing that great this year. I think he's still playing very, very good. I'd say he's playing like one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league this season.
Sure.
Because it's what he's doing on third down that really, really sets apart his play compared to everybody else. They ask him to be Superman on 3rd and 4th down. They ask him to make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what. And for the most part, he has done that in spades. I'll take what happened against Tampa. So on 3rd down against the Bucs, he went 11 of 13 for 126 yards, 3 touchdowns, and on 11 of those completions, 10 of them were for first downs.
That is good.
That is otherworldly right now. He has been the most incredible player in the league when it comes to 3rd and 4th down. And it's not really close. Like, they ask him to do so much, and he has done it again and again. It's tough because he's Brady. Brady and the Patriots, you can't pick against them, because the minute you do, they're going to find it on offense, and then they're going to run through the AFC again.
And here's the thing. If they don't make it this year, and like everybody's proven who does pick the Chiefs is wrong, I'm still going to pick them to do it next year, because my mindset will be like, well, they're not going to go 2 years without making a Super Bowl. They're probably going to get back. Like, it's the exact same thing that it was with Brady for so long. And that's just kind of the reality that we're living in. But regardless, that is the mid-season awards show. Good stuff all around. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please be sure to do that. JP Acosta, what have you got coming for the people on the lovely world of the internet?
So Finding Established the Fun is going to come out sometime this week with the trade deadline stuff. Working on a lot of trade deadline things. College Football Top 25 is going to be released today. Just make sure to follow me at SB Nation. Follow me on social media at Acosta32_JP. See what I'm doing and see where I'm going.
Follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. Follow all the work at the Sporting News, as well as the occasional dabble at SB Nation as well. Like I said, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure you subscribe. If you're listening to this as a podcast, be sure to leave a review. And we will see you for the, Week 10 preview later on in this week. We are getting through the season very, very quickly. So thank you all for tuning in. As always, Jarrett Bailey, JP Acosta. We will see you soon on the Pump Fake.